Hope you guys are doing well this morning. Glad you're here. If you are just visiting with us, welcome. If you're watching online, welcome to you as well. I'm going to talk to you this morning about the title of my message. You might be a potato. Don't be offended. It's a good thing. You'll find out. Okay? But I want to talk to you a little bit just first about myself. So I grew up on a farm. I don't know how well you can see this picture. But this is my farm. This is what I grew up on. There's my house over here. This was an old picture, because I don't know if you remember I told you my barn burnt down. This was the barn that burnt down. But this green shed was like full of junk and stuff. It was supposed to be like to store equipment, but my dad liked to go to sales. Anyway, this was the farm that I grew up on. But something you might not know about me is that I've never been good at keeping plants alive, which is not good for a farmer, which is why I'm not a farmer. That was my dad's job. One of the things that we've done, or I've done, when Maya and I first got married, we're getting our apartment ready and we're decorating and getting all excited and stuff, right? And we actually, which was like my home, we bought a plant, a house plant. We thought, this will look nice in our apartment. It'll make the place look alive a little bit. Something I didn't have when I was single. And so we bought this, it was like a palm kind of, one of those plants that aren't supposed to die? Yeah, it died. This is a picture of, this is not it, because, I didn't take pictures back then. But this is a picture, that's basically what it looked like, the plants. And this is basically what plants have looked like in our house ever since. They don't survive. Some people are really good at it. Some people have amazing plants in their living rooms and they like drape across the windows and like just beautiful, right? Ours, not like that. I don't know if any of you is like that. That's what our plants look like. I'm going to tell you a story with a little better picture. This is a painting called The Gardener. It's actually, my mom painted this. That's my dad in his garden. And his garden looks way better than mine. But just a nice picture for you to look at while I'm talking to you about something else rather than a dead plant. So when I was the whole time trying to take care of plants and stuff, I've tried different things. We bought different types of plants and different things, and they always seem to die. We either overwater them, which I didn't realize was possible, but it is, until they started to die from it. So then, you don't water them as much, and then you forget about them, and then they die. Right? So I've done things like, I get a plant, and I think, this is not going to survive in my house, because I'm going to forget to water it, so I put it in the back porch. I think, God's going to water it when it rains. Right? Which, he did, but he also sent the sun. And my backyard faces due south. So it's bright sun all day long, so it scorched the plants and they died. So it doesn't matter where I put plants, they don't survive around me. This is my history. Okay, we even bought like a bamboo plant one time. Bamboo's supposed to be like hardy, right? You put it in water, in a cup of water, and it doesn't die. Ours died. I don't know if the water got dirty or something, I don't know. But it didn't survive, right? So it doesn't matter what type of plant. All these plants that are supposed to survive, they never did around me. They ended up looking like that. But here's the thing. Even in my backyard, go back to the next picture. Even in my backyard, it's okay before. I mean, the grass grew, the weeds grew well, but I didn't really take care of it. And sometimes the grass grew too tall and I had to cut it. And it wasn't always the best place, the best condition. The thing is that I found out the soil in my backyard was old and it was hard, and it wasn't really capable of growing very much on its own without any help, right? So a few years ago we planted a raspberry bush. We got bought one at like Canadian Tire or something. We planted it, and we thought raspberries grow anywhere. This is what people told us. It doesn't matter, raspberries will grow. So ours, we planted it, it grew a little bit the first year. We had a few raspberries on it, and then the next year nothing happened. And it was 2 years or what, but it was a while. Nothing really happened. Sometimes it would kind of grow up, there'd be some shoots, and then it would die, no fruit. Right? So it didn't really matter what we did, what I did. Things died. But here's something that's cool. I love my wife. She's awesome. She's the type of woman who she's always trying new things and making my life exciting, because she's always got a new hobby every year. There's something new that she wants to do. You know, years ago it was baking cakes. She's done things like make jewelry or event planning. We started conventions and stuff. That's a whole different story. But it's always cool and it's exciting. And what's awesome about it is I get pulled along with it, right? So she makes my life exciting, and I love her for that. So this year we decided we're going to plant a garden. Now you know my history with plants, right? So I'm thinking, okay. But the other awesome thing about Maya is that she excels at the things that she does, right? I don't know if you've ever tasted her cakes. They're awesome. They're decorated just amazing. Anyways, I love her. But plants, right? So the other thing that I love about God is that He made everything. And so in everything, there's a lesson to be learned.
Yeah.
One of the things that I really want to bring home today, this is the point of my lesson, I want to teach you how to be a gardener, because I'm not that good at it. Our garden's okay this year. It's actually, I think it's pretty good. But the point that I want to bring across is that regardless of where you start, you can become bigger and better. So here's a question. How do you feel this morning? I've come up with a few different ideas. You could be feeling great. Maybe you're really prepared, you're doing well, you know where you want to go, you're just full of energy and you want to just grow, you want to keep going. That's awesome. You're skilled, you're faithful, you're doing well. Maybe you're okay. That's still okay, right? You know what you need to do, you're knowledgeable, you're prepared. If you're a Christian, you know how to study the Bible with people. You're maybe not quite as on fire and ready to go all the time, but you know what to do, and you're ready for it. You're okay. Maybe you're stagnant, and you feel like you're stuck, like you just kind of go through the motions every day, day to day. Maybe you're like, you wake up in the morning, you go to work, you go to school, you come home, and you make supper, and then you watch TV for an hour, and then you go to bed. And then you do that again. And you feel like you're just kind of there taking up space. Right? Maybe that's where you are today. Maybe you feel useless. Maybe you've tried to grow, but it's not working. Right? Maybe it's just not, you just feel too small. Maybe you feel old. I'm not just talking physically. Maybe you are physically old, but maybe you just feel old. You just feel like you're tired. The soil of your heart is like my backyard. It's hard and it's old. Maybe you feel forgotten. Maybe you feel like you once had potential when you were younger, but now the opportunity just passed you by, and it's too late. I don't know where you feel today, where on this spectrum you feel, but I'm guessing it's somewhere in there, right? But here's the good news: regardless of where you start on that spectrum, you can become bigger and better. So, you might be a tomato. This was our tomato plants in our garden. We bought the best tomato plants that we could find. And they were full of potential, and we thought, these plants are going to be awesome. We got some bigger ones here and a couple of little tiny ones that don't really show up super awesome on the screen. But they were good little plants, right? And we had a lot of hope for them to grow, and we knew that they were going to do well, because when we bought them, they said they were going to do well. So we had a lot of hope, and these tomatoes were full of energy, ready to just like burst and give us lots of fruit, right? And they were awesome. So I'm going to talk to you about Peter. Peter liked to talk about tomatoes. You might not know this. Maybe not directly about tomatoes, but I'm going to make that reference, and hopefully you'll follow along. So Peter was a fisherman. He turned into a follower of Jesus, right? Peter was nicknamed the Rock. His actual name was Simon, but Jesus named him the Rock, because that's what Peter means. He's going to become something awesome. right? Jesus saw potential in Peter and gave him his nickname. Peter once said that he would never leave Jesus aside. And then a few hours later, 3 times he said, I don't know who Jesus is. Right? This is Peter. Peter was also the first person to publicly preach about Jesus. He was the first person to stand up and say, guys, this is what Jesus did for us on the cross. This is what happened. This is what we need to do now. Read the Bible, it's in there. He became a leader in the early church. Some people believe he became the leader of the early church, aside from Jesus. I don't really know there, I wasn't there. But I know that Peter was one of the head guys in the churches in the early days. Some of Peter's last words I'm going to share with you. These are things that Peter would say all the time. He would always remind people of the words that I'm going to show you. I know he always did it because he said right after he said it. I always tell this to people in 1 Peter 1. So 1 Peter 1, verse 5 to 8 says, make every effort to add to your faith goodness, and to goodness knowledge, and to knowledge self-control, and to self-control perseverance, and to perseverance godliness, and to godliness mutual affection, and to mutual affection love. For if you possess these qualities in increasing measure, they will keep you from becoming ineffective and unproductive in your knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ. Peter said, all the time, he always told this to people, and he even said, even if you know this, I'm going to keep telling you this because it's important. Grow. Keep growing. If you're doing awesome, that's great. Keep growing. Peter says, if you're great, if you're okay, if you know what to do, you can become better and bigger. There's always room to grow. This is my garden. Before there was anything in it. This grass down here, that was what it was like. Dead. Because our summer this year started really dry. Now it's green, but anyways. But I was told that I needed to dig up the dirt, right? Make it softer and looser. And we also bought these big bags of pre-mixed fertilizer and soil put together. So I rented a rototiller and dug up the ground, made it all soft, and then mixed in this really good soil. And that became our garden. And then we planted the tomatoes up in the back corner, and we planted a little zucchini plant, and a bunch of strawberries, a few herbs in the middle. We also planted a blueberry bush and an apple tree. Like I said, when Maya does things, she goes all out, and she does them really well. But, so we planted all these things, and we put the soil around the blueberry bush and around the apple tree. And we're hopeful that they're going to do really well in the next few years and stuff and keep growing. But this was our garden. But our raspberries look like this. Dead. Right? That's where I thought they were at. I thought these raspberries they're not going to do anything. They're dead. They're not going to grow. You might be a raspberry. Jesus told a story about raspberries. It's actually figs. It's the same kind of idea. So Jesus told this story. A man planted a fig tree in his garden and came again and again to see if there was any fruit on it. But he was always disappointed. Finally, he said to the gardener, I've waited 3 years, just like I waited 3 years for my raspberry bush. I've waited 3 years, and there hasn't been a single fig. Cut it down. It's just taking up space in the garden. The gardener answered, Sir, give it one more chance. Leave it another year, and I'll give it special attention and plenty of fertilizer. If we get figs next year, fine. If not, then you can cut it down. Guys, this is important. If you're a raspberry today, if you feel like you're stuck, you're stagnant, Jesus is telling you, you know what? This is not a place you want to be because I'm ready to cut you down. But there's a chance. You take special attention. You make sure you're getting the food that you need, spiritually, even physically. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Make sure that you're pulling out the weeds around you. And there's a chance that you're going to grow.
Yeah.
Right? There's hope for you. It's not over yet. Jesus says, if you're stagnant and useless, you feel useless, there's hope, there's a chance that you can become bigger and better. Hopefully you're seeing the theme here. You might be a potato. So, I bought this little bag of baby potatoes. You can buy them in the grocery store. They're supposed to be like, you can cook them and put them on your frying pan, whatever, and they're good, they're ready to go. So I bought these potatoes. I thought, there's potential in these potatoes. There's going to be the ability to feed myself and my family with this little bag of potatoes. Right? They had a purpose when I bought them. And I thought, but then I brought them home, put them in the fridge, and honestly, I forgot about them. And they got old. But this was like in the winter when I bought them. Eventually, they got kind of like these ones that are kind of wrinkly and soft and don't really look like they'd be good to eat anymore. But they were just sitting in my fridge, still in that little bag, just in the fridge, just chilling out, literally. And eventually, they started to sprout. Now, sprouted potatoes, sure, there's something there, but they aren't really good for eating. You can eat them, but they're not the best. They're not as good as they were when I bought them, right? But these potatoes, they didn't really have much motivation. They were useless, right? And they were forgotten, sitting in my fridge. But then I thought, after we did all the garden and I planted the blueberry bush and the apple tree, and I cut this big hole in the ground, and then the trees were like this big. Well, it's not that big, but the root bulb is like that big. So there was an extra dirt around it, so I thought, you know what? I'm going to take these potatoes and I'm going to stick them in the ground and see what happens. So I did that. Paul was another guy. He was kind of like a potato. Paul says in Philippians, "Brothers and sisters, I do not consider myself yet to have taken hold of it, but one thing I do, forgetting what is behind and straining toward what is ahead. I press on to win toward the goal, to win the prize for which God has called me heaven in Christ Jesus." Now, not that I've already attained all this, or have already arrived at my goal, but I press on to take hold of that for which Christ Jesus took hold of me. Paul says, Paul, if you don't know, Paul was a big character in the Bible. Again, read your Bible. But he was kind of forgotten sometimes. He was stranded on an island. He was just kind of sitting there waiting. He's left in prison a few times. He had lots of visitors, but I'm sure there was times when he felt forgotten and old. Right? But Paul didn't worry about that. He forgot what was behind, and he strained forward for what was ahead. Paul says, if you're old or forgotten, you can become bigger and better. So I don't know where you're at today. Where do you feel this morning? If you're great or okay, you're like a tomato, you're ready to go, ready to grow. Maybe you're stagnant and useless, or you feel that way. And you're like the raspberries, but there's not a lot of hope for you. Maybe you feel old and forgotten, and like you had your chance, but it's gone now. Maybe you feel like that. But the good news is that regardless of where you start, you can become bigger and better. There's always hope for you. You might be a tomato. So, those little tomato plants, they grew into this tomato bush. This is my garden. This fence is like 5 feet high, just to give you some reference. So the tomatoes are literally like a bush about this big and like this.
Wow.
They're huge. And they're bearing fruit. Right? Those aren't the reddest tomatoes, but there are some really awesome ones. We only bought the ones that make little tomatoes because we like the little ones, but they're full and growing, these tomato plants. So you can go from great and okay to thriving as you grow. You might be a raspberry. You're stagnant and kind of useless. You're taking up space in the garden, or you felt that way. Just a little hint, you aren't. If you feel that way, 90% you aren't actually that way. But I paid special attention to these raspberries. This is now a bush. It's not huge. It's not as vibrant as the tomato bush. I call it a bush because it's so big. But what I did was I made sure there's no weeds growing in around them. I kind of, I can't get the lawnmower in there because I'd cut the bush down. But I get in there and I rip out the weeds and I make sure that it's growing and I make sure they're watered and put a little fertilizer on them sometimes. I'm paying special attention. And now I'm hopeful that these raspberries are going to bear fruit. Maybe not this year, but I kind of know how to take care of them now. I'm hopeful that eventually these raspberries are going to kind of take over this corner of the yard, because that's what I've heard will happen. With raspberries, they'll grow. But there was a time when I thought they were useless, and I was about ready to rip them out. Right? But now I'm hopeful. Maybe you're a potato. So this is our blueberry bush here, and there's a little bit in the middle. This is all those potatoes, that little bag that I thought was kind of useless. It had a little bit of potential, but I forgot about them. I put them in the ground, and now I've got all these potato plants, and this is around the apple tree, all around the base of there. Now I've got that. Now, honestly, I'm kind of worried that the potatoes are going to take over our blueberries, and I'm not going to have a pretty good blueberry bush. But I gave these useless potatoes a new purpose. Right? Just God can do that for us. If you feel like you're useless or you've missed your potential, He's always giving you new opportunities, new chances to grow, new purposes. Regardless of where you start, you can be bigger and better. So, this is just about the end, actually. I'm super early. So Peter he talked about tomatoes. Just as a bit of a recap, I'm really hammering this home for you guys. Hopefully you understand this. Peter, full of potential. Grow. Keep growing. Don't stop. Don't tell it to my tomatoes. They should take over my house. Jesus talked about the raspberry bush. He says, guys, if you feel like you're stagnant and you're just taking up space, you gotta actually really pay attention to this. This is important because you don't want to be in the place where I'm coming back and I'm saying, you know what, you're useless.
Come on, Shayne.
Jesus wants to come back and say, there's fruit. It's growing. You need to really pay attention and make sure you're getting our food and pulling up the garbage in your life. Paul talks about potato plants. This is the same little bag of potatoes. I planted them in 3 places, around the raspberry and the tree, and then also in this pot. And I just threw some dirt in the pot full of dark potatoes. And now that one's growing too. Needs a little water in that picture. But Paul says, you might feel like you're useless, like you're old and tired and forgotten. But guys, you can just have a new life. You can have a new purpose and thrive in it. Potentially take over the other things that are in the way, right? Like my blueberry bush. There's room for you to grow. So guys, this is actually the end. Like I said, super early. But regardless of where you start, you can become bigger and better.